Good morning. Happy Sunday. So it's really the first day of the last week of something. So before I get started today, I wanted to once again thank all of you who've allowed me to speak to you and to share thoughts with you over the course of this 55 days plus. As I said, I'm going to try and continue every morning until we get to next Friday, where we will have the final wrap up of the coaches. And I would encourage you that if you had a coach that you enjoyed hearing, or a coach that had said something you really wanted maybe to expand more and you had a question, but maybe you were one of those people that Phil talked about, excuse me, that didn't want to reach out on the public type of forum, I would encourage you to reach out to them personally through Facebook, or if you know how to text them their phone number or their business number. And I would leave them a message to your question and ask them, so that will give them some show material, for lack of a better term, to maybe continue this week as well, and to be with you and give you thoughts and pull you through this week. I think one of the most important things that we do this week is, as I said yesterday, or the day before I think, is to pick 3 things for sure, maybe as many as 10. And to constantly review the things that we began to do that have made us successful during this journey. But the one thing we can't continue to tell you to do or to remind you of is if you have doubt or lack of fear to go and try things on your own that are consistent with this program. So from the book, and this man thing is, doubt and fear are great enemies of knowledge. He who encourages them, he who does not slay them, thwarts himself in every step. You know, we were actually only born with 2 fears: fear of falling and fear of loud noises. But we learn the other fears. We learn fears like fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of success. I mean, we learn that. We say, well, what happens if I don't succeed? Which is just a brother of fear of failure. And hopefully during the course of these weeks that we've talked, you learn that failure or not completing a task is only a learning experience for you. And that you can go forward and you can learn more from your failures than sometimes you can for your successes. This time of going through the last 7 years of my life personally, of the challenges I've had, I've learned more, gained more wisdom. You know, when I pray or meditate, I say, you know, Lord, give me more wisdom. I'm a little hesitant to do that, because I think that wisdom comes with experience, and the real experience that gives you wisdom comes from a lot of your failures. And it will lead, it will propagate you to have doubt when something comes your way to do something. And let's face it, doubt is the first cousin of fear. Because the longer doubt stays around, the more it festers for fear to come into your life. For fear of going forward, because you fear that something will happen that you don't want to happen. So, because I'm in church, I chose to be a little more biblical today, and I sort of forewarned some of you about that, is that James the Apostle, who was one of my favorite, the book of James, one of my favorite books in the Bible, it says, the Apostle James reminds us that doubt makes us ineffective. It says, a doubtful mind will be as unsettled as a wave on the sea that is being tossed and driven by the wind, and that every decision you make will be uncertain. Think about this. Remember the Bible reading where Jesus had preached to the people, and he sends his disciples across the Sea of Galilee, I believe it was. And it was getting near dark, and they get out there, and the wind comes up, and the Bible says it was a tempest. I mean, that's a big wind, right? It's like, I guess, hurricane, gale force winds. And so there says, I will meet you there, right? And so they're starting to get really scared, because they're out in the middle of the lake and the Sea of Galilee, and it's just kicking, right? And so all of a sudden, here comes this figure through the clouds and the wind, walking on water. And just like some of us see, if we saw Michael Jordan dunk a ball from the foul line, I think every basketball player in the world wanted to dunk a ball from the foul line. Okay, and Tony and Holden, it doesn't matter who was the greatest. LeBron could dunk it from the foul line. That when LeBron dunks it from half court, then we'll make him hands down the favorite, right? Because maybe that'll happen in that new movie. What's the movie they're doing? That's a remake of Jordan's movie. So, but Peter sees Jesus walking and he says, Jesus, call me to you so I can walk on the water, right? And what happens? Peter begins to walk on the water. And all of a sudden, who comes? The monster of distraction. Peter starts looking at the Lord and looks all around at the wind blowing, the waves kicking, the boat's going up and down, the disciples are scared, right? And so he loses his faith. He loses his focus. And as he begins to fall in the water, Jesus reaches out and grabs him and he says, where's your faith? Why did you doubt? And I have to ask you the same question. As we move through this, as we have the opportunity to grow, maybe a little bit on our own, or maybe you've connected with one of the coaches, then we have to make the effort to overcome our fear and our doubt. If fears are learned, if you learn the fear of failure, the fear of rejection, those fears can be unlearned. Zig Ziglar, I believe, said, we have to become the master of our thoughts. And Mark Twain said, true courage is not the absence of fear, but the mastery of fear. The people who live in immense health and success, they have the same fears of the people that are overweight, unhealthy, unhappy, undisciplined. It's just they become masters of their fear. They become defenders of their dreams, and they've lived their dreams, and they've overcome the doubt. And they do it on a regular basis. Listen, Norman Vincent Peale, who wrote the book, The Power of Positive Thinking, had another book he wrote, and it said, it was called You Can If You Think You Can. He says, you cancel fear with faith. And there's James from the Bible again, because faith, in the Bible, James, the apostle, says, faith is belief plus action. Well, what did we talk about? What is our greatest tool that we maybe learned in this whole program? You know, maybe it was meditation, which are your thoughts, right? Starting your thoughts. But we learned that tale. Your thoughts and your actions then go to the outcomes. So what James told us is, hey, listen, your faith that can overcome doubt and overcome fear is your beliefs, your dreams, your thoughts, plus your actions. So it's two massive forces that work for our brain. One is fear, and the other is faith. And faith is much stronger than fear, because they make movies of people who had faith in their dreams and beliefs. So hold that thought. Hold that thought about how great your faith is. Hold that thought about how you can overcome doubt and defeat that. Now here's a guy that you people probably never heard of. He's not a Zig Ziglar. He's not a Brian Tracy. He's not a Norman Vincent Peale. His name was Ambrose Redmoon. Ambrose Redmoon is credited with some really sort of neat kind of phrases to motivate people. But the reality was, he wasn't a great author. He didn't do anything significant in life. In fact, he changed his name because he didn't like his name, and he changed it to Ambrose. And he was in an auto accident and spent many of his years as an author, who many of us won't know. He spent them coming up with great phrases and things and that. And he was a caregiver when he was in this accident. And he said, And he had this, he said, courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the judgment that something else is more important than the fear. Everybody at one time or another experienced fear. But the people who go through the fear, the people who go through the doubt, those are the ones that accomplish. If you're walking along, your child darts out into heavy traffic, you as a mother or father, or even a brother or sister, will dart out there with no concern towards your own physical well-being. Why? Because your love and care of that child is greater than the fear of injury that you incur. This is what Red Moon was talking about. So in our lives, when your health or your prosperity or your happiness gets to that most down doldrum, I want you to remember these tools and bring back to them so that you go forward and you lift up, and that desire to be healthy, that desire to be prosperous becomes more than your fear of failure at it. I'll close with Brian Tracy has a statement on how to fight doubt. He says, don't wonder whether something is possible. Don't get down on whether you can do it or not. Focus on saying how you're going to do it. How, and you're going to have to ask that question over and over again. How can I do this? How can I make this happen? So continue to ask yourself the question of how and not whether. Be blessed, be strong, be safe, conquer the monsters of negative talk, procrastination, money worries, and distraction. And do not doubt the tools and the greatness that you have within you. This program has only opened the doors to all the wonderful things you can be and become. And you have some of the best coaches that you could ever want behind you. Remember, webinar Monday night with Phil at 7, prize giveaways, questions answered. Reach out to your coaches that you resonated with. Ask them to expand on things. That will give them the opportunity to hopefully help you continue your journey. Be blessed, be strong, be safe. With all gratitude from my heart, thank you so much for allowing me to be helped by what I'm doing for you each and every day. And I look forward to speaking to you up until next Friday, and hopefully technology will lend itself to being learned by myself and one of our coaches, and we will bring you something we think very special. God bless.